Hello, today we're going to be jumping into the Juggernaut build. Want to have the ability to charge in, storm a castle, and lay waste to every person in your way? This is the build for you. The Juggernaut is a devastating powerhouse of pure health and destroys everything in its path, with or without power armor. Let's go over exactly where you'll need to spend your levels to become the Juggernaut. And for these build videos, we're going to walk you through the very beginning all the way to level 50, just so you know where to spend your points. So in the beginning we get 21 points for specials, and then as soon as we start the game we run down to our house and we get the special, we'll get the special book, which allows us to put one more point into whatever stat we want. And of course there are bobbleheads for each of these specials as well that will increase our specials by one more level. The max level is 10 without some trickery, which is fine to do, part of the game, but we're not going to focus on that for just the build itself. Alright, so for our first 21 points, in order to make this build work, we're going to need to spend them in some specific places. Now, depending on where you want to use your special book and how long you want to wait till you find a bobblehead for some of these will depend on how many points you put into it. Alright, but we can get really lost in theory crafting on this, so just going to try and stay focused here. We're going to put our strength up to 10, so it's going to take 9 points away from our 21. Okay, so we push our strength up to 10, but we're going to simulate that that's a bobblehead, so technically we would have used 8 points. At some point we're going to get a bobblehead that pushes us up to 10. You don't need 10 points right away, so you can wait for that bobblehead. Because you're really not going to be using the power suit a whole lot early game, and the 10th point really just gives you access to a power suit ability. Until you have quite a few fusion cores, this won't come in super handy. We need to bring our endurance to level 3, so we're going to put 2 points into it. And depending on how you want to play, if you want to use companions or you just want to use the dog, it's up to you. If you want to use companions, charisma, we'd only put one more point into it, so it'd be 2. If you don't care about using companions, we would put 2 points into it, bringing it up to 3. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put 2 points into it. Alright, we're going to need to bring our luck up to level 3. So that brings us up to 14 points spent total, because we're pushing 2 levels into luck. Alright, so that leaves you with 7 points left to put wherever you want. Personally, I would put them in intelligence just to increase the experience gain, and then when I get the special book, I'd also put that in intelligence just to increase the experience gain again as well. Also been in quite a few more builds, such as Sniper, Time Lord, Monk, Gunslinger, and more. So make sure to subscribe and turn on that notification bell if you want to see more of these builds. Alright, so we're going to assume that right at the beginning we're going to follow the main quest. We're going to get 1 point into Perception with that bobblehead that's sitting next to the Militia. So we'll go ahead and simulate that, put 1 point into this Perception. And then I'll put the 7 remaining points into Intelligence. You can put them wherever you want. If you prefer more Charisma, more Endurance, Perception, Agility, whatever you want. If you feel like you're going to be needing to use VATS more, this build's not really for VATS, because it's mostly going to be melee and short-ranged weapons. But if you feel that you need VATS instead, you can put some of your points into agility so you build up those VATS points. At level 10, we're going to jump straight. We're going to do 10 levels at a time all the way through 50. So this is where I would put my first 10 points. I guess you only get 9 points. So where I would put my first 9 points when heading to level 10, because at level 1 you're already at your 21 points, right? And then you get 9 at level 10, you've hit 9 more levels, which gives you 9 points to put into perks or into specials, wherever you want them. Alright, now you have to decide what kind of Juggernaut you want to be, so it depends on where you want to put your perk point. If you're going to be a Juggernaut that uses melee, Big Leagues is good. If you're going to use a Juggernaut that doesn't use automatic shotguns, a Rifleman will be good for you. Rifleman's great because it covers all non-automatic rifles. And the other choice is Heavy Gunner. Now this seems like a lot of fun and would make most sense for a Juggernaut, right? The big old guns and all that, but the thing is you don't find a lot of ammo for those big guns throughout the game. That's because these guns are really powerful. So, this is probably one I would do later in the game, once you've been finding some ammo for those big guns, and then maybe come back and spend some of your extra points into Heavy Gunner. For the purposes of Juggernaut, we're going to assume we're going to be using rifles and shotguns for the most part. And of course, melee damage, because what's the point of being a Juggernaut if you're not just running in and bashing some enemies, right? So we're going to go along this route here. Pop a point into Rifleman, which you have to get the bobblehead for Perception to do this, because we didn't spend a point in there, remember? Okay. So that's one of our 9. We'll put a point into Big Leagues. We need to put a point into Bashers. The ones that are going to be a really important one for Juggernaut, because you're going to be up close and personal, and with a gun, you can use the butt of your gun to really do some massive damage. Alright, so we'll put a point into there. So that's 3 of 9. At level 5, we'll go ahead and put another point in. And while rooted seems like it would be good for a Juggernaut, I find myself standing still as a Juggernaut. I find myself pushing and barreling into people. So we'll ignore this one. We'll put 2 points into toughness. This increases our damage resistance to 20, which will really help us stay alive. Alright, and then we're going to put a point into Life Giver. And Life Giver just increases our maximum health so we can survive longer. Alright, that leaves us with 2 points left, so then we'll go ahead and drop another point into Rifleman, because increasing our Rifleman at this point will allow us to ignore 50% of the target's armor and do 40% more damage, which is going to save us some ammo. Alright, for our last point, level 10, I would going to drop it into Lone Wanderer, simply because I'm not going to be traveling with companions as a Juggernaut. If you are going to be traveling with the companions of the Juggernaut, then you could have reduced your charisma, not push it all the way up, that saves you a point. And of course, not putting a point in Lone Wanderer saves you another point you can put somewhere, so that's 2 more points available for you if you don't do this exact path. The reason for Lone Wanderer as a Juggernaut is you gain 50% less damage, and your carry weight increases by 50. So now we're going to be able to wear that heavier armor, carry those heavier guns, carry more weapons, whatever, loot more, and we're going to reduce our damage taken. That's going to be amazing for a Juggernaut, so we're going to put a point into that. Alright, and now from level 10 to 20, that's going to give us 10 points to spend. Where should we put those 10 points? Well, of course, toughness. So now we have plus 30 damage resistance. Of course, Lone Wanderer. So now Lone Wanderer gives us 30% less damage and increases our carry weight by 100. This is awesome. This is so much better for increasing carry weight than going strong back. But if you're going to have a companion, then you might want to put some points into strong back instead to increase your carry weight that way. And of course, Life Giver, more health, the longer we live. Alright, and then we'll go ahead and max Life Giver out when we hit level 20. That's 4 of our 10 so far. With Life Giver maxed out, we will have gained a total of 60 extra hit points, which is nice. And we'll slowly regenerate our lost health, which is really nice. And of course, we'll put some points into big leagues so we can save our ammo and do some melee damage and mix up our playstyles a little bit and have some fun. So we'll put 2 points into there, which brings our weapon damage up to 60% more damage for melee. And we have an increased chance to disarm our opponent. So we want to put some points into Armorer. So we'll put 1 of our points into Armorer. And of course, we'll put another point into Basher. And by bringing up Basher, we now do 75% more damage, and we have a chance of crippling our opponent, which was really helpful if they don't die when we bash them. Alright, now from level 20 to 30, where should we put our points? We'll put 1 into Rifleman, which will now increase our attacks to 60% more damage with non-automatic weapons, and it'll ignore 20% of the target's armor, saving us quite a bit of ammo. And then of course we'll push up big leagues, so we can switch to melee whenever we want, because we're a Juggernaut and this is fun. Of course, if you don't want to do big leagues, or you don't care about increasing your Rifleman damage, you could always drop one of these for the extra points into something else. Alright, so now we've increased our melee damage. We'll go ahead and pop another point into Armorer, so we can get the rank 2 armor mods. And then we'll put another point for rank 3 armor mods, unless you're just not needing the rank 3 armor mods yet. And of course, we'll up our bashing, so that gun bashing is max and now does double the damage, and it has an increased chance to cripple your opponent. And it may also land a critical hit, which is really nice because you usually can't get critical hits outside of VATS. Okay, and then we'll go ahead and put some points into Bloody Mess. This increases our damage with any weapon overall, and also has a chance of making enemies explode, which is very Juggernauty. So we'll go ahead and pop a couple of points into this one. So we put 2 points into it, increasing our total extra damage to 10% more damage on everything we do in combat. We'll go ahead and drop some points into Gun Nut. Alright, so we'll push Gun Nut up to rank 3, and at level 30, that leaves us with 1 spare point to put wherever else we want. Let's jump up all the way to level 40 now. We got 10 more points to spend. Where should we put those points now that we're going from level 30 to 40? By this point in the game, you've probably found quite a few fusion cores and are ready to start using your power suits. These things increase your physical and energy resistance by quite a bit and can make a big difference for the Juggernaut. So we'll pop some points into the Pain Train. And what this does is, while wearing power armor, if you sprint into an enemy, you hurt and stagger them, which can be really nice, especially if you're trying to use melee. Alright, then we can put a second point into it, which increases damage and does a more powerful stagger. Okay, and by now we'll assume you've gone out and grabbed the intelligence bobblehead. So we'll max out our intelligence. And something that's very Juggernauty is the Nerd Rage. When your health drops below 20%, time slows and you gain extra damage and resistance. But this is really nice and can save you in a fight. And this seems very much like a Juggernaut thing to do, so we'll go ahead and do it. I don't know if your health isn't, if you're constantly healing yourself and your health isn't dropping down to 20% in combat. This won't proc very often, but as a Juggernaut, your health will probably drop pretty low oftentimes, and this could keep you from dying, while also making you very dangerous. So Hulk out, right? Let's go Nerd Rage. So between level 30s and 40. So we'll put 2 points into this so that we can have 30 damage resistance, 30% more and we do 30% more damage while in Nerd Rage. So we should have about 50 damage resistance and do 30% more damage while in Nerd Rage, which is really awesome. And of course, let's maximize our shotguns and rifle damage by upping our riflemen. Which of course brings us up to 80% more damage and 25% ignoring the target's armor. And if we target a limb, we have a chance of crippling it better. And then we'll throw a point into Lone Wanderer. So now we do 25% more damage. Alright, so we're going to be doing a lot of damage. And of course, if you notice, the last level of Lone Wanderer says you have 25 more action points. If you're not using VATS, we're not going to take that. If you do use VATS, you may want to put some of your extra points at level 50 into this. And then we'll drop a point into Bloody Mess, increasing our overall damage by 15% more. Alright, and that leaves you with 2 spare points for Juggernaut. Alright, but now we're going from level 40 to 50. So where do we put these 10 points? Well, at this point, let's assume you've gotten all the bobbleheads, and we'll go ahead and simulate that and up all of our stats by 1 more. We already did perception for that. I would put 1 into Pain Train. So sprinting in enemies while powering armor now causes massive damage and knocks them down. Alright, it doesn't just stagger them, it knocks them all the way down. And if you jump off of something high and do your superhero landing, you inflict even more damage. So it could be pretty hilarious jumping off a building and landing on an enemy, although I don't see that as being something that'll happen all that often. And of course, let's max out Nerd Rage so it's as effective as possible. We gain 40 more damage resistance, so it should be about 90 damage resistance when in Nerd Rage, and deal 40% more damage. And while in Nerd Rage, you heal some lost health every time you kill someone, so this is going to be awesome. Right, of course, we're going to max out our damage abilities, so Rifleman will now deal double the damage. Right, also ignores 30% of the target's armor, so that is awesome. And of course, if you hit someone in the limb, you have a higher chance of crippling them now. Right, of course, we'll drop a point into Big Leagues. Of course, we'll drop another point into Big Leagues, so that we now double our melee damage and have a chance of crippling our opponent, or grand slamming their head clean off. We'll be running around decapitating enemies, so that's going to be a lot of fun. We'll go ahead and level up Toughness, because it never hurts to have even more damage resistance. So we'll drop 2 points into damage resistance, pushing our damage resistance up to 50. And of course, that leaves us with 5 points left over to put wherever you want. You can slow your build down at the beginning and put those 5 points in utility items, something that you want. You want to swim or reel underwater, you can push yourself up to so you can go Aqua Boy or Aqua Girl. Right, so some other good choices for Juggernaut. Could be Refractor, because energy resistance is nice. Another one that would be good for Juggernaut is Adamantium Skeleton. When you max this, you take absolutely no limb damage. And now for me personally, where I've spent the last 5 points left over, all the way up to level 50. Right, I would drop 2 points into Perception to bring it up to 4. And I would take Locksmithing. 3 points into Locksmithing, that uses the rest of my 5 points. And that's my Juggernaut build. If you enjoyed this video, smash that like button. Have an awesome day.